it's great to try all those different things and go down those paths, go down those wormholes and learn those licks and learn those tunes and all this. But you really, at the end of the day, you got to be true to who you are. And the sooner one realizes that, I think, the better.
Welcome, everybody, to Nashville Drummers Podcast, Episode 10.
Today, we are introducing you to Jed Smith. And just want to say, it's been a little bit over a month since our last episode, but appreciate everyone staying patient while we are kind of getting our stuff together. And I know, Nate, you've been pretty busy. We've both been busy, but you bought a house. It's your exciting news recently. Congrats.
Yes, it officially closes on Friday, so we'll tentatively say I bought a house. I can say it for sure in just a second here. But yes, I've been doing all house-related moving activities on top of working a lot. So my head has been pretty much under the water. So now I'm finally, as of this morning, having a moment to breathe. I slept in. Got more than 5 hours of sleep. Amazing. Yeah,
so that's really exciting. Yeah, so you already knew Jed. I had never met Jed, but man, it was a really good conversation. I think it was really a perfect kind of reintroduction to the podcast after being away for a month. It was just really refreshing to talk to him and learn his story.
Yeah, and Jed is he's a great dude. I met him playing on Broadway. I just really dug his vibe. I liked his playing a lot, and I would see him doing his little pre-show routine, and it got me super curious, and I was like, well, this is a dude whose brain I actively want to pick, so what better way to do it than with microphones in front of us, with a bunch of pressure.
Yep. So for those that don't know Jed, we'll just read a quick portion of his bio. Born in Louisiana, Jed Smith began playing drums at an early age in the Pentecostal church.
Mm-hmm. If you don't know what that is, that's where they yell a lot and they jump around.
Let's see here. He attended Nashville State Community College and went on to Middle Tennessee State University, where he was mentored by Derek Phillips and Lalo Davila. So he got his BA in jazz studies, and he's recorded, performed, and produced and toured with artists such as Jackson Capps, Alyssa Palmer, Carly Brill, Cosmic Collective, The Hathaways, Larry Mitchell, Ashley Kay, The Downtown Band, J.W. Faria, Dara Tucker, Abby Cash, and Hunter Loken Parcel.
Yeah, there's some serious heavy hitters in that list, and I wasn't even aware of this until literally reading this now. So yeah,
we gotta have him back and ask him about all these.
Yeah, Jed, why did you not talk about this? Well, I'll tell you why. Because we talked about a whole bunch of other cool stuff.
We had some really good deep dive topics. Mm-hmm. It was good. It's one of my favorite interviews, actually.
Yeah.
You
know what? Here's the thing. I'm gonna be honest. Every interview we do is one of my favorite interviews.
True,
I'm immensely enjoying doing this. Every time I'm like, that was so cool, and I feel like I'm getting more out of this than anyone. And I hope that everyone feels that way. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
God, really?
I feel the same way.
Really, got
because we're learning so much from each guest, and just having good, authentic conversations.
Yeah,
so it's been fun. So yeah, we hope you enjoy episode 10 with Jed Smith. Did we just do an intro, one take? That can't be right.
Dude, that's right.
Need a sweater.
Where are you from then?
I'm from Louisiana, and we literally didn't have like a central air. Yeah. And I think even though I've been here for 15 years this summer, dude, I just love the heat. Oof. I don't know why. And it's just something, it's weird. 72 is and my wife came home today and she had been out running errands. So she was like, and I was like, I could feel it. I was like, did you turn on the air? She's like, I put it on 71. I was like, oh my God, I'm freezing. What in the world?
So how are you with the Nashville heat, in the summer? Is it not that bad then, or?
No, it's about 10 degrees warmer here than where I'm from. So because I remember I moved in June of 2006. I moved here.
6.
And I'd done a construction, like I worked on someone's house for a couple weeks to save up some money to come up here. Yeah. That's literally how I moved here. And I'd been working outside for 2 weeks straight. And I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just like, yeah, I can do it. And then like just figured it out. It was like a siding project on a house. And when I got here, I was like, it felt like spring because I had been outside and that like, say it went from like 100 degrees to 90 degrees, but that 10 degree cooler, it was like, oh, this is pleasant. I'm outside, like I'm like washing my truck. I'm like going and doing things. And everyone's like, oh, it's so hot.
You're like, no.
I'm like, dude, it feels like Easter just happened or something. Like I was like, I'm feeling good. But that being said, by the next summer, I was like, oh, this is hot. It's, you know, it's still super hot to me. It's just, I function better, I guess.
Did you move right from Louisiana to Nashville? Kind of walk us through that story, that transition for you.
Yeah.
That was over 10 years ago, right? That was 2006?
15.
Oh, wow.
Well, going on 16, I guess. Yeah. Been a trip, man.
It's a Nashville old timer.
Well, yeah, I guess depending on who you ask. I mean, so like for me, yeah, I don't know how much the story you want, but I mean,
whatever you want to share.
I grew up playing. I had like a kit as a kid. My
first kit
for garage sale. I have no idea. I was 5. And I don't even know. My parents got it just like a yard sale. Who knows what it was? I wish so bad. I wish I could like figure it out, but I don't think there's any pictures. But anyway, my first actual kit that I remember, it was called Radical. It was by Cannon Percussion.
Whoa.
And on the bass drum, it said Radical.
I don't even know what that is.
And I got it my 7th grade year. And no, sorry, I got it my 6th grade year, and I wanted to join the band, but I had to wait to 7th grade because they didn't have drums in the band in my 6th grade. So I had to wait 7th grade. And the band director was also a drummer. His name was Bucky Dunbar.
Bucky Dunbar.
So Bucky Dunbar was the
name.
band director, and I was going to, and so my first year I played tri-toms,
Yeah, buddy.
But Bucky got me the drum kit, the Radical, and it was like it came in for Christmas, like in a cardboard box, and it was a piece of crap, dude. Like the snare stand broke. But I played it I don't know what I played, but I just jammed on it constantly.
Yeah.
And funny thing, I remember this. My snare drum ended up being in a chair for like the next 2 years because we just like I broke the snare stand and never got another one. It was just like sitting on a chair, so it was like pop. You can only imagine, but I didn't care, But yeah, that was my first drum kit that I know of. Like I remember the brand, and then my Uncle Jimmy opened a music store because he was a musician in town, and he started dealing Mapex drums. So then I got a Mapex set. And I still have them. And they're so cool. I never play them, but I can't get rid of them because, it's like my first, like, legit drum set.
Yeah, sentimental value.
Yeah, man. So, yeah.
So were you interested in drums early on then? Like, as you were a kid, sounds like.
Yeah, I had the buckets. It was literally one of my first 2 to 3 memories that I can even possibly remember was playing buckets like in the laundry room, just like hitting like this bucket, just with whatever. I probably had like sticks from the yard outside. I grew up like small town country. Like we had a creek. I'd like catch crawfish and stuff. Like I was like a country Louisiana boy. And so, like I said, we didn't have heat. I mean, we had heat, but we had like gas heaters and like no central AC. So we had like window units. We had this thing called the attic fan. We had to like turn on this fan and cool down. I mean, it was just crazy. It's like a different world compared to how I live now. Yeah. So I grew up in that thing, and first drums. Yeah, always played drums, and we were like my family was big in going to church. So every Sunday morning, Sunday night, and every Wednesday night we were at the church, and we had like a full band, like drums, guitar, bass, keys, so that was kind of like my outlet for it,
Yeah.
That's what got me interested in it. Was the church music.
Yeah.
So,
Start playing in youth group.
Yeah, eventually, yeah. Eventually I played in youth group a little bit. And then really for me, the marching band, like the marching culture, the parade culture was very strong. We had parades for everything. Like every holiday, we had a parade.
Yep.
So like not just Mardi Gras or whatever, but like every holiday. So that was my outlet. Like that's where I learned like rudiments, and like learn how to play a little bit and play with other people, Did
you do quads then in the drumline?
Yeah. Well, my first one was tri-toms, and then I went to snare drum.
Lucky guess after the tri-toms.
But then my freshman year in high school, I played quads. Actually, they had 5 drums. They had one more in the middle. Yeah. And they were so big. I think they were like 70 pounds. And I was like out there like waddling, like, oh God,
Terrible.
You see like these old drum corps photos of like these frail, men and women with like timpani on their chests.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And like marimbas at one point, maybe.
Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah, marimba's insane.
Like marching marimba? Like, you sure? Yeah, so that was kind of that was really the thing, I think, that got me playing. I was just like obsessed, like paradiddles, double stroke. You know what I mean? You're just like trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out in a way, but I guess that's where it all started. Yeah, high school.
Do you have a memory of like your first parade that like sticks out to you? Or like maybe the first gig there was like, oh wow, I'm actually playing in front of people and it's no longer, in the laundry room.
Probably at church. But it was before pre-youth group. It would just have, luckily the church I attended was very into music. Our pastor was like a musician, like he was an artist and stuff. And so it was always very happening. So I think I played in like some plays or something, like church musicals or something. I don't know. But first parade, probably the Christmas parade, like my first year in band.
Yeah.
Probably the Christmas parade.
Yep.
We would like, that was well, that's a long time ago, man. But that is a trip to think back on.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that in a while. We used to tape up our sticks, like different colors. Like, I don't know. It was fun. It was fun.
So are you still teaching drum lines here in town?
No, it's kind of funny, like, So I've, as we're all on this path, right, the ebb and flow, I did teach a front ensemble, what they call it now, like marimba, vibes, all that stuff, right? But by the
Everybody.
Got him.
Everybody but me.
Oh, yeah.
what?
Marimba.
He's trying to learn marimba.
Well,
Mallets.
I was like, it's this like gaping hole in my percussion ability and knowledge.
Well, I'm sort of, we're skipping but I just got to go chronological, but I'm skipping a lot to be able
we
to
can dive right back in.
To be able to say I'm teaching front ensemble.
Yeah.
Let me be very honest though. I'm at the point that I was teaching, I've been a professional musician. I was, luckily able to see a little bit bigger picture. So I had a couple of students. This was a high school group in Spring Hill. And a couple of the students, they were technically better than me, like formality. They could play more pieces than me. You know what I mean? I was like, dude, I don't have those chops. Like, I got them up kind of like enough to get a degree and whatever, but I was never like that great. So I don't want to act like I'm like a great mallet percussionist.
Sure.
But what I was able to bring was like other concepts and thoughts about musicianship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was kind of my angle to teaching. So it wasn't just like all chops. Like I wasn't like the chops dude ever. Especially in mallets, But no, I think it was great. But it took me a long. I was 30. Was I 30? I think when I started studying mallets.
Okay.
So I don't know how old you are now.
Yeah, see, it's never too late.
There's always 30,
I'd say
32.
mallets is a pretty big undertaking. Versus, I feel like if, say you didn't know drums or mallets,
Yeah.
like I think drums would be much more approachable than mallets,
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. But
Yeah, I'm 34 now, so, but like you said, it's not never too late. I have an interest in it enough that, just because I like the sound of it.
Yeah, dude, it's beautiful because you're getting the melodies out of the drum set.
Yeah.
And out of the you're getting melodies, you're getting chords, quote unquote music.
Right.
So that's what's great about it. For me, it was just a part of the path. I wouldn't have gotten as intense with it had I not been at MTSU, and it was like, you have to do this or like you don't get to go on. So I did it, and I stepped up, and yeah, it was definitely one of the best decisions I would say that I made, was going to MTSU and getting that degree. And it was a lot of work, but I'm happy that I did it, and it opened up those opportunities to be able to teach. And then eventually I just fortunately started getting enough gigs that I just, had to sort of choose a little bit. But so I never really taught drumline. Maybe like one-offs here and there, like some specialty things. I just have a different approach. I think luckily I have a different approach than most drum corps guys. That just have like a really it's mostly intense, rigid uniformity, like, because that's what it has to be. Right? Yeah. That's like the whole thing, right? And so my thing is just different. It's just like, what about music? What about quarter notes? Like, what about space? Things like that you have to use in what we do more so. Yeah. So I would try to bring that into, so like I'd work with the drum line someday and I'd be like, all right, we're going to put on like a Sly and the Family Stone song and everyone's going to play quarter notes. And then you're going to kind of like move, and you're not going to be marking time going you're just going to be
move to the music itself.
Yeah, just like let it kind of flow and just feel the groove, right?
Yeah.
And they were just like, what is this groove you speak of? It is just like, it's nothing that crazy, but it was interesting that I was able to offer that to the drum corps world.
I think that balance is so important. I think that your approach is much more practical, and obviously has gotten you to where you are, getting gigs and
this podcast right here.
This is the peak of your career right here. Right?
Hey,
yeah, you're welcome.
I am happy to be here. I think it's that balance. You know what I'm saying? So it's just being aware of it.
Yeah.
So like now, like I focus on that more than anything, and it's really been the main thing that's helped me is just playing music. You know what I mean? Not playing the drums, not playing the rudiments and all that. Trying to play music, and whatever the pulse of that beat is, feel that pulse, and get inside that, and let that get in your body. That's sort of my latest. I don't know if you say undertaking, but I guess the thing I'm most excited about right now is getting it into your body, so to speak.
Yep.
Out of not so much here. I mean, it takes everything. Like don't get me wrong, you can't really skip a step though. That's the thing. And I'm not really teaching right now because, for number one, I'm just like, I don't even know if I know. It's like you get to that point, you're like, do I even know anything? Like what? Like.
How did I get here?
Like, I don't even know. I'm still trying to figure it out, like, every day I wake up.
I think a lot of us feel that way. At least I do. Most days, I'm just like, what do I know, let alone could I actually teach upon someone younger than me or older? Like, who am I? Like,
but that's a weird thing that I experience every time I'm going to sub with someone on Broadway. I'm like, someone that I haven't played with,
Yeah, man.
Wait a minute. Am I gonna be able to do this? And it's always fine. It's great. I'm like,
but specifically,
but every time I'm like, do I actually know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
I guess I do because this keeps working, but it's like, but it keeps every time I'm like freaked out for a minute. I'm like,
I feel you.
Why did I say yes to this?
Keeps you humble,
what am I doing?
Right?
I don't know.
Well, it's because maybe
I'm an amateur.
I mean, you have shoes to fill in a sub gig that you're talking about. That's probably mentally part of it too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The head game is.
Well, then other people's livelihoods are riding on it too. I'm like, well, I don't want to screw it up for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so on the Broadway thing, number one, I know what you're saying. What I have to do is, well, there's really no easy answer to that, but just a thought that comes to my mind when you say that is like, I try to think about, yes, the other people in the band, but the main thing that's helped me is like thinking about the people. And it's going to sound however it sounds, but just think literally about the audience, like whoever is taking the music in.
Yeah.
It's like, as long as they're having a good time and getting something out of it, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the only thing that's important, but it is very important. And then, like you said, if the singer feels confident, she or he can just do whatever. I heard this guy. So when I was studying jazz, this guy named Andrew Rothman, a sax player up in New York, he said, your job as a drummer is to make the soloist feel like Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah. So now I take that into like pop music or more social music, you know what I'm saying? Like the music that everyone tends to listen to. And it's like, I want the lead singer or the bass player or the lead guitar player. And especially if there's a solo happening, you know, fiddle or sax or guitar, a lot of guitar, you know, but even if it's not, if it's just the singer and they're singing that verse, well, they're like the soloist, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like they should feel like Superman or Superwoman. Like
I love that line. Yeah.
They're just on top of they can do anything. They no matter where, if they came in early or came in late or they held a thing, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
because we're just like
you're just in that supportive role,
and they can do anything they want, and they can connect with the person in the back of the room or the person right up front, or they can close their eyes and go to a memory, like anything that they do, like they can do it, and they can do it better than they've ever done.
Yeah,
that's sort of our job. So I say as drummers, I mean, you could take that as any instrument, but you know, seeing as how this is a drummer thing, you know, we'll say
very
like
apropos of you. It's a big word. Waiting to drop that word.
Yeah,
a few years now.
I concur.
I had it written on my wrist for the last 6 weeks.
Edgar Allan Poe.
Finally.
No.
Oh yeah, man, I love the Raven.
But yeah, man. So yeah, I could get sidetracked.
There's a lot there I want to get into. Definitely your jazz background, Broadway, and like who you're playing with currently. Just quick though on what we just talked about with like the soloist, because we've talked about this. I mean, this comes up a lot. Obviously, that's our job as drummers. You're more of that supportive role. Do you what's your actual strategy, like in terms of like dynamics dropping down, or like what's your approach in terms of like accenting maybe what they're soloing versus just staying out of their way? Like how do you approach that from a jazz perspective?
Playing jazz specifically?
Or just in general, yeah.
Man, for me, it depends on what I'm playing. If I'm playing, this, just my opinion, my personal, it depends on like where I'm playing. If I'm playing Rudy's versus Tootsie's, I have a little bit different approach maybe to the role of drummer. I used to be a lot more interactive with the soloist, I will say that. And then I got really, really into that. And at one point I realized, just like everything, we're all in different places on the path, you know what I mean? And you're always kind of moving. Yeah. But at one point I realized, like, I was playing with this Barry sax player, Jesus, killer. He was getting his master's in conducting, and was also just it is insane, like improvised music dude, you know.
Yeah.
And he would go bop bop bop. I'm like cat 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 babby bop shaka dot. And he was like, dude, he's like, why are you repeating everything I say?
So you're doing like call response, basically.
Yeah, he's like,
But it was exactly...
I don't need that, you know.
Yeah,
and that kind of got me thinking, like, it's really not that clever that just because you did a rhythm, a melody or rhythm on your horn that I can like, oh, I can play it too. It's like, yeah, but like I'm just hitting a snare drum. It's like, and it got me really thinking, like, And what it really did is it propelled me to listen to records, and eventually, like, I finally figured that out. Like, oh yeah, that's. It's like it's all right there, and like why don't we listen to more records? I don't know. So I got less and less into the interactive level, but it depends on the type of jazz too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's very specific.
Yeah, context is everything. Is what I'm hearing from you.
Context is everything. So it depends on. I mean, it just depends on what it is, man. You know what I mean? Like, it just depends on what it is. So, but if what I've noticed on a lot of the great records, like, I'll say straight ahead for lack of better terms, but nothing, you know, anything like pre-1959 for sure. Even in bebop, like, the head will be a lot, seemingly, not everything, but one thing I noticed is a lot of times in the head, the drums are a lot more interactive, and then the moment the soloist hits, it's just time.
Yes.
Dang, 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 dang. Maybe quarter notes, but dang, 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 dang. And then if it's a blues or something, at the top of the form, there's bang, they'll like mark the form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's kind of like maybe 3 solos will go by, especially some of the like really, to me, really, really great players would do that. But then you have guys that are totally doing the opposite of that. So like, I just think it's basically, this is a long answer. What it comes down to is, for me, is what kind of player am I? What kind of player are you? What kind of player are you? So, I mean, dude, I do like Elvin Jones when it comes to jazz.
I was just thinking of that name, yeah.
Elvin Jones, Tony Williams couldn't be more different.
Yeah.
Both just virtuosic, dude. But they couldn't be more different. And to me, I mean, it's like totally different. And they're like, to me, the just most insane. Like, they're just the greats, right?
Yeah.
But I found myself wanting to be like, I want to play like Elvin, or I'm going to do something. It's like, but I'm not Elvin Jones, you know what I mean? Like, and it's great to study that and study the language and listen and play it and try it and stuff. But what I finally, my journey, when I finally came to realize, and every drummer's got to do this for themselves, is that you have to figure out who you are.
Mm. Yep.
So
love that.
Yeah. My playing, although I love that, I love listening to it, I love playing the licks, I love trying, I love playing along, it's so fun. That's not my thing. Like, that's not what people, when they think of me, when they want me to come play and they call me, that's not what they're calling me for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm more of a time player, you know, a feel.
Pocket, yep.
And yeah, just whatever the setting is. And then there's times, you know, you got to stretch out a little bit here and there, but yeah. So really going back, especially like on Broadway, dude, I'm just like, well, I reference the records. I'm like, in terms of what I dig about like a solo player, if it's a solo happening, I kind of stay out of the way because, again, I want them to feel like Superman. Now, if they start doing this like really obvious bow, 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 it's like syncopated thing, and like I know they want me to go there,
Yep.
then I go there. If they start building and I know they want that, then I'll build.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I just try to stay out of the way and let them really express their thought, because they may have a really complex thought or phrase, and if you jump in too soon, maybe you kind of disturb it. Mm-hmm. I think that's what Jesus, that player, was telling me.
Yeah.
He was in the middle of a phrase, and I would interject just too soon. And
He
he's
wasn't-
like,
yeah.
and then he's like, oh, man, like you're kind of messing up my thing. Let me just do my thing.
Right.
And so,
Yeah, I mean, music is communicating, it's talking. It's the same kind of principle. You know, like as you were just talking, I wasn't going to interrupt you. But then, you know, if we start talking, you start joking around, like we're going to interject or we're going to play off of that vibe as well.
And
But like, I'm going to let you finish your sentence. You know.
And that's a great note because I just took way too long to answer that question, right? That was a really long
that was great,
phrase.
Yeah.
I had something to say, I just didn't know quite how to say it, so I had to flesh it out. And y'all just supported me and let me talk, right? And it's the same thing.
It's cool.
I really like that way of thinking about it.
You stare at me like an open.
To reference a note here is very Be Water like.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Bruce
Yeah,
Lee.
so you wrote, so we have all of our guests submit this interest form, whatever, and Jed wrote topics of interest, what not to do, which, okay, definitely want to talk about that. And then be like water, Bruce Lee. I love that quote as well. What does that mean to you? Why did you write that down?
Well, I was hoping just to fill this container. This beautiful container.
Dude, this would be a nice vessel to fill with water, huh?
Yeah, right?
Nope, I don't think so. Not with my drums in it. And all these microphones and...
Am I the only one that has wanted to play drums underwater? I can't be the only
I think
one.
I've seen that recently, like a music video.
I think the guy from System of a Down did that, I want to
Really?
say.
Oh, wow.
I saw a picture of it in Modern Drummer a million years ago, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that looks fun. I mean, obviously
I
the
can't
time
even
limit is pretty small, but I want to do it.
A very short song. What's the shortest song? Have you seen that? The shortest song, it's like that long, and and this band recorded it, and they'll actually play it live. It's like 2 seconds,
I don't know.
Never heard of
if that. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
You'd have to play that.
right.
Got it, nailed it.
I guess it depends.
One paradiddle, that's
Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
Or a rough, maybe?
I don't know. It depends on how far
rough
you've
school.
trained your dynamic apnea.
Dang, dude.
Superman right there.
So
So yeah,
yeah,
be like water.
it's just Bruce Lee. And I don't even know if that's the exact quote. It's
Be
just,
like water. Drown people.
No, Nate, no.
That's what you're trying to say. Got it. We got him,
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen.
it's based. So I guess the general
tagline works
the
itself.
general idea is you fill the container. You know what I mean? So that's
So now the water is the
general
bottle.
vibe.
Be flexible, right? Be malleable.
Yeah. You do the job that you're meant to do. I mean, I don't know. So you got the Grand Canyons and you got the Aquafinas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's all. I mean, it's still water, I guess.
I think that's exactly what you were just explaining. Ultimately, you could break it down to just that. Be like water. You're like, well, I'm playing this gig, and this is the vessel that I'm to fill, and so I'm just going to be the water that fills it. I'll just do
I
that.
agree.
Yeah, and it's really simple. I mean, like, there's really nothing to talk about, guys. No.
I didn't know there's some
we should
deep,
just
deep
end it.
meaning.
It really is very simple. It's like I could go on and on, but then it's like
That's going to be the title of the episode now. Jed Smith, Be Like Water.
there's just nothing.
That's it.
There's nothing to talk
Well,
about.
but there's a lot to talk about, but there's nothing at the same time because, I mean, it is very simple. It's not easy, but it's simple.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, as
And
most things are.
I think it's the discipline. For me, I'm realizing more and more it's discipline. Yeah, discipline is how
Especially in jazz. I'd say more than other genres, right? Or to be like water, to be, having to adapt
Well-
and listen on the spot. I mean, that applies for any style, but
It depends. It just depends on the player again.
yeah.
I mean, sometimes, yes and no. There's disciplines that require like super intense things, and then there's disciplines that the intensity is the restraint. And I think for me, that discipline is a little harder, maybe fewer and farther between, and harder to come by amongst players. And it's harder. Like just today, like I had just a few minutes to practice, right? And I'm like thinking, okay, so a thing I've been recently kind of getting into is like, this doesn't really make sense, but it'll probably make sense to y'all. Like Drumset Rudiments, like instead of like a paradiddle or rough or whatever. I'm like a drum set rudiment is like I'm thinking like a groove. Like that's like, you know what I mean? Like like that's like a single stroke roll or something. It's like just a very basic.
I see what you mean. So you're not saying rudiments on the drum set. You're saying
like
you're saying own version of rudiments.
Phrases and things that you go to on the drums. You think of them like a rudiment, and you develop them the same way.
I guess, yeah. This is very. I just
I like that.
Yeah, that's better. You're further along with it than I am. I literally just kind of thinking about it very recently.
That's the way that I approach polyrhythms. That's how my brain thinks of it. I'm like, well, you shouldn't think of these as like two things or whatever, three things when you're playing multi-limb independent stuff. It's like it's one thing, and you should think of it as one thing. You should. It's like a word. Like, okay, well, I just need to understand this word and really get good at using it.
Man, that's a very deep concept. To quote John Riley, the drummer, he says, I learned a lot from him, by the way.
Yeah.
Did you study with him?
No. Well, in my mind, lots. I got the DVD. I think it looks like he recorded it like in his basement. Like it looks crazy. And the books, but I've spent so many hours. Anyway, but two things he says that are like when I'm teaching are kind of like cornerstones. One is in terms of independence. He calls it interdependence.
Yes.
That whole concept, I think. So that's like, to me, that's what you're saying.
Yes, it is.
It's not this and that. It's this.
Right.
And the other thing is that concept of headroom, where he talks about like a car can go 160, but you what do you take it 70, 80? I mean 80. Let's say 80, whatever. Yeah. But you need that headroom. So that's the same concept. Being able to play these crazy polyrhythms at different dynamic levels and all this crazy stuff I already know. I've seen you play. But you work on that. One concept is just so when you're doing other stuff, it's just not so hard.
Right.
It's just like, it's pretty cool. It's pretty chill.
It's almost like strength building for drums.
Yes.
Then you show up to the gig and you're just playing time, but it probably feels a lot easier. Like you don't have to think about it as much, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you guys could speak to that more for Broadway. But.
And oddly, a thing I'm noticing lately is like I don't know. You may feel like I don't know. I've never talked to him about this, but sometimes I'm like, this feels a little too easy. Like I feel like is this a little too easy? Like, am I? Like, is someone just gonna like figure me out? Like I'm not really doing anything. Like that's how it starts to feel.
Right.
I don't know, but then I'm like, okay, well maybe there's something I'm missing. I need to reassess some things, but I don't know. If you get to a certain level of headroom, and some players may be like, dude, that's what I'm bored. I need to challenge myself. I need to play harder music or something. And there is room for that too. That's why it's great to have different projects.
Yes.
So right. You got, So you have your different projects.
Keeps Nathan sane.
But
all of us.
Only so many times I can play "Don't Stop Believing." I mean, actually, they're actually that's not even that great an example because that's actually one of the more you're doing it like the record. That's one of the more challenging songs.
Oh yeah.
Dude.
Like actually having those dynamics and playing it with.
That's a great part, and
the piano starts, and everyone's drunk and like screaming. The drummer's like, "Shit, I got it." Stretching during that 2-minute window.
My buddy Jason Chance I don't know if you know Jay's a good country player. He plays everything, but he's like, this is the white girl's national anthem. Yeah. And he starts, and I'm like, and it's so true. Like that kicks, man, and like it's like, yeah, it gets a bigger response than like the national anthem. But anyway, sorry.
Have you noticed this? Okay, I want to do a quick aside. You just got me thinking about this. Have you noticed that people don't even really know what they like? This is the weirdest thing. We'll go like, we have a country crowd, a rock crowd. Oh, country crowd. Okay. We start playing Guns N' Roses, start Sweet Child of Mine, and everyone flips their lid. I'm like, you don't even know what you like.
They know what they think they like.
Right.
And societal norms.
That has been blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Well,
interesting.
I can speak on that a little bit.
Please.
Yeah.
Country. So, as my neighbor says, she's like, I'm Southern, I ain't country. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, people who live in, like, I personally, like, I live currently, like, in the city, but, like, at my heart, like, I'm, like, a country. Like, I grew up in that kind of that mindset, right? And a lot of people, country people, tend to like hip hop and like metal.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, play me some Pantera and some Lil Jon. You know what I mean? And it's true. And then you when you got like stuff like Aldean, Jason Aldean, it's like, so they're like, hell yeah, this is great. Because it's like, it's got rap, it's like both. It's like cool.
Yeah.
And they're talking about stuff I know about. Dude, I've thought about this stuff. We all have probably, like, way too much. And it's just like, it's kind of like a Jeff Porcaro thing. But he said, like, you have to play social music. Like, you don't want to, he said, some drummers come across as, like, antisocial. And that quote, I was just like a random thing. I'm like, what is he even talking about? But I got to thinking, I mean, Jeff Porcaro, you know, everybody has their own opinions, I guess. But to me, dude, just, I didn't have any words, right? Just so great.
Yeah.
I was worried you weren't going to trash him right there.
Those, try to really get in the pocket with him on, like, any song. And it's just like, it's like trying to play a big band track with Buddy Rich. It's just like you're getting slapped around, man. It is like, wow, this is how it's done, right? And he's like, yeah, a lot of drummers are playing like it's like, I forget the quote, but where I saw it, it's like a video, and he's just like, it's like they're like antisocial. I think he means like they're just doing all this stuff that people don't relate to. You know, like it's so complex that like the average person is just like, I don't know what this is. Yeah. You know, maybe I could be totally taking that out of context, but anyway, it's sort of like country or rock or whatever. Country people like, you know, they like rock. Country people like rock.
Yeah.
And they like, it's weird. And then there's people like what I would think of a city person, maybe someone who lives maybe like a CEO of a company in like this nice suburban. All they listen to is country.
Yeah.
You got people out in the country and they don't, you know, all they listen to is rock or metal or rap or something. So it's like, I don't know, dude. Anyway, I have no idea. It's almost like
musical escapism from whatever environment you're accustomed to.
Right.
Maybe it's like the people from the country are like, well, I want to listen to metal, and I want, like you said, Pantera, which I also relate to because I'm from Redding, California, and it's fairly rural, and it's definitely a lot more redneck up there. You know, a very conservative area. Lots of metalheads, lots of people into hip hop. Like, okay,
it's awesome, and I love all of it personally. I mean,
I'm here for it.
I'm down. But there is something about that social or antisocial. There's something there that I'm just like, man, what a deep statement.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is something to think about.
We'll have to come back to that. If you think of that, if you find it after, definitely send it over.
Okay, yeah.
It's interesting. Maybe it's also like you're playing out of style, or like you're just Like you're antisocial of the actual event that you're supposed to be present at. I don't know. I hadn't heard that before, but
I don't know.
That's a really interesting quote. And I think you probably framed it right. That makes sense. Like, well, yeah, you can kind of play things, work on things because you know that having more technical ability literally it translates into ability to express yourself, like whatever you have. But then you forget about the expressing part, and then just putting just nothing but technique out there, and you're like, well, that's obtuse. It's super like it can be really grating and irritating to listen to somebody that just does that. Like, well, that's cool that you could play, break that into 17th lits, but
Nate.
but why?
And then that goes back to the Headroom, but just knowing they really everything we're talking about all ties together, but you have to fill the container. You have to be who you are, right? And where you're supposed to be. But not everyone has that. Like, dude, I don't know. I'm jumping all around, but I'm really just trying to say the same thing. Like Keanu Reeves, it's like you see him, the actor.
Yeah.
You see him in
I've heard of him.
Every movie, he's just like, he's the same dude. Right? And then you have actors that, like, you don't even recognize them. They are the character.
Yes.
They both work. They're both awesome.
Yes.
I don't know how.
And you hire them for different reasons.
And they could, So there are other drummers, like, you hire this drummer or this musician, whatever, because they are doing that thing on this record or that's who they are. And then you hire those session players or that's like what I'm more attracted to is like, they are that.
Yeah.
And they're both great. It's just, it's like, what do you, going back to that, you have to, it's great to try all those different things and go down those paths, go down those wormholes and learn those licks and learn those tunes and all this. But you really, at the end of the day, you got to be true to who you are.
It's great advice.
At the end of it all. And the sooner one realizes that, I think the better.
Yeah, agreed.
Some people realize it really early on, I think, and others, I personally feel like I was a little late to the game, but it's like it doesn't matter. As soon as I kind of realized it, I was like, oh, but it's not a waste, because then you have all this informs what you do now.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, that still, it all comes back to Headroom. That's still like you've built capacity.
A lot, and maybe a lot of it.
And you know what? There could be a moment. There can be little, even in a gig like the stuff that we end up doing. Like there can be moments where there's just a chance to stretch out and do some really nerdy shit for a minute. And that can be great. That's so much fun. Yeah.
And dude, yes, going back to that 17. Yeah, I mean it's.
Well, it's not, and like the crowd wants to see that too. Like they come to see the musicians. Like they want to hear the songs covered and played well, but like they're expecting you guys to play.
So
solos and everything.
And exactly, dude. So if you really want to say like, you can't be like, oh, I'm just playing what people want to hear, but then as soon as they want to hear some really like badass drums, you're like, oh, well, I don't really. It's like, no,
well, that's not musical.
That's like, not on the record.
Well, then you're like, well, you're not really
playing what
doing
you want to play.
What. You're that's sort of a cop out, because like I can't play anything hard or whatever. I say hard. I don't know. That's just my word for it. But you know what I mean. It's like, well, you have to kind of be able to do it all. Like, and that's like what a statement.
It's daunting, but yeah.
Yeah, and
that's what I found the most successful musicians, not even just drummers, but they can kind of do it all.
Right.
But it's like a time and a place of when to apply each of those areas.
Well, look at
not
Vinnie.
All at once.
That's a dude that's got like ostensibly no limits.
And we're not talking about Vinnie Paul.
Right.
to the Pantera.
Which is hilarious, because we had this actual conversation before. I
I love where this is going.
I did the drum off, and I put
right.
like
Vinnie.
They'll ask you who your influences are, and I wrote Vinnie, and the guy I was like Vinnie who? I was like, who do you think?
Vinnie.
He's like Vinnie Paul. I was like,
You're like, I'm
Call
probably...
Uta. I'm like, that's not, and this isn't me talking shit about Vinnie Paul. Vinnie Paul's great, but if someone just says Vinnie,
Paul's crazy.
they're talking about
guitar
Call
center,
Uta.
drum off. Yeah.
Right. I'm like,
You're like,
I would say Vinnie Paul.
Yeah, right.
I'm
exactly.
sorry.
Yeah.
dude, that's so fun. That's probably one
He
of
gets
the
the
best.
last name. Caliuta just gets Vinny.
That's one of the best things I've heard. Yeah, like if there's like an Elvin Jenkins.
Yeah.
Like,
Is there a middle name that
no,
could help me
I'm
decipher who
pretty
this
sure.
is?
Oh.
wow. Yeah. That's pretty good, man. That's pretty rich.
Yeah, I listened to Tony. Oh, Royster? Oh,
and then
yeah.
and again,
Senior or junior?
then Tony Royster is not like obviously he's a
gosh.
monster.
It's just funny because
But you know who we're saying? Yeah, we're saying Tony Williams. We're saying Elvin Jones. We're saying anyway. Yeah, that
you know
was
what's
the thing. Yeah.
interestingly the other I like sometimes these little moments you just kind of realize something totally out of the blue and we're playing a gig or whatever and it's like someone's like someone said something about Garth and I looked at Darren, one of my best friends in the world and bass player, fantastic musician, man, Darren Terrio, fantastic human and musician. And I was like, I don't know anyone named Garth I know a fictional character from
Right.
Wayne's World. And then Garth Brooks. Maybe you may or may not be a fictional character now. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm like, Garth Brooks. I'm like, what an interesting name, like Garth. That's such an odd name. Or I say odd, like you just don't hear it.
Yeah.
But it's like
I don't know anybody either.
one word, like Garth. And I know people who they would have said this to me. They're like, if I saw him on the street, I wouldn't even know who he is. But I know his name and I know his songs.
Yeah.
Like people who don't even like, listen to country per se, it's like, Garth. Anyway, sorry. But that's a pretty
it's the same
odd,
thing.
if you think, like, who's your influence? Garth. like Wayne's World fan? Or like,
Yeah, right.
like,
that makes sense. Yeah.
like, I don't know. I don't
How
even
do you
know
get
who
that
would
confused?
be.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway.
Yeah.
It just made me think of that. I was like, anyway, yeah.
No,
Sorry.
there's such a thing as being a household name. And like that's just obviously those are two giant examples there.
But Vinnie, wow.
Vinnie.
But-
Coming back to that, Vinnie is a guy who can do anything. He can do pretty much whatever. Maybe not the most insane, nerdy, weird stuff, but probably.
Yeah.
And he makes a groove.
He does, and he's constantly. He can become a chameleon.
Yeah.
He can do anything, but when Vinnie is being Vinnie, to me he's the perfect balance because you can hear him play and go, "Oh, that's obviously Vinnie," or you can hear him play and go, "I had no idea that was Vinnie."
Yeah, that's true. He's kind of one of the exceptions to the idea of like you're either a chameleon or you're not.
Right.
And he's both.
Yeah. He can wear whichever hat he damn well pleases.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is a very that's so interesting. And it really does come back to like that's who he is.
Right.
And he has to be that. Like he's Vinnie's got to be Vinnie, Paul, or
Yes.
or Vinnie.
Yes.
Vinnie.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I don't know.
All right, so hit me with first of all, I've been wanting to ask you this since every time I see you come in.
We share a lot of we coming and going and a lot of sharing.
Yeah.
Yes, so usually most gigs I'll be finishing up and he'll be playing the shift right after. I'm like, I know. I'm like, okay, gotta get myself out of the way.
How many nights a week are you down there?
About 20.
20. Wait a second. Hours?
I was waiting
The seriousness of that face. I'm about down there 20 nights.
20 nights a day.
Poor man.
20 nights a day.
She must be making
sometimes-
bank, so
Sometimes more.
Sometimes more.
More than 20 a day.
How many? Sorry. Okay, we'll get back serious. What was the question?
I'm just wondering what your
It's like
Broadway
schedule.
shifts are. Yeah.
I'm very lucky right now. I'm playing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday doubles, and I play 1 gig on Monday.
That's great.
And it's beautiful, and I love it.
That is kind of the goal, man.
Yeah, right.
Just shove them into a few days and then have lots of rest.
And I can't take like credit for it. Like I didn't like I'm gonna do it. You know, it just got stupid lucky with that. I don't know. You know, I don't know how it happens. But
You can take credit for being excellent.
Yep.
I can't take credit for being excellent.
But you were saying something though about I didn't want to interrupt your point there.
I've been meaning to ask you about your routine. So he comes in and he'll get set up, and then he goes and I see he's got his food prepared, which is already like that's a next level thing. Because a lot of people like don't bring food down, or we'll order food at the spot.
Yeah.
And then I see you doing like pre-show stretches, and I kind of mentioned that, and then one of your bandmates was like, "Oh yeah, we call him Sensei. He's got a whole routine."
Oh, I love it.
Call me Sensei. Oh man. So, well, first of all, I want to say, Nate, not only are you a fantastic player, you always are so courteous and kind when I'm in that changeover. You know, you help. Like, you clean up the space. He'll, like, grab my, like, cymbal bag and be like, let me just get that. You know?
I'm sure he's not just, like, throwing it because he wants to get on quicker. That sounds like maybe something he would do.
No,
like, kind of like low-key kicking it while it's...
It just...
Yeah, let me help you.
It may be small, but it's big.
I'm just messing.
It really goes a long way,
Yeah,
dude.
for sure.
And not a problem.
Those things, it just matter, and it's just...
What do you know?
It's
2
cool.
hireable Broadway drummers that are actually decent people.
Yeah, well, you know...
It just doesn't take that much effort to be courteous and to make another person in your area feel like a human being that's cared about. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
really,
well...
it really is like there's so little effort required to wave to your neighbor and say good morning, you know?
Yeah, man. And that speaks on so much more than drumming your music, you know?
Yeah.
So I can kind of get into the routine a little bit.
Yeah, please.
I'd love to, yeah, because we've talked to a lot of drummers that we've had on the show are doing Broadway in some capacity, and this has come up a lot, like different nutritional, strategies and just being healthy away from the drums to be able to pull off doubles and everything that Broadway, requires.
So for me, it's been a journey. Obviously, I've been trying to take care of myself before Broadway. However, it really, just like your playing sort of elevates, you have to elevate your health plan, so to speak. For me, it's also coincides with like a spiritual, mental, and physical thing. It's not just like I'm gonna be healthy, you know what I mean? Like, so I get up, I make coffee, and start like a listening meditation process, and I have a stretching process, and dude, I also have a guy who is a massage therapist, and I want to mention his name and maybe try to get him to certain people, like maybe
feel
get
free to
his
plug.
contact.
Yeah, this is your show here.
His
so.
His name is Randy Pendergrass.
Okay.
And if we could, I don't know if we could put his contact or number. I don't know. I just saw him.
We'll put it in post.
He said he's cool.
Descriptions of it. Yep.
He's a nutritionist and a physical therapist, but massage therapist. But anyway, he's been a big part of my journey. But back in, what was it? Last year at some point, I was having so much problem in I'm getting away from the nutritional side for just a second.
Dude, let's dive in deep on whatever you want to dive in, man.
I was getting, this maybe, we could talk about that too, but basically just try to eat quasi-healthy, but whatever.
He came in here with the bottle of kombucha, which I just started drinking a lot of. So I admired that.
Oh yeah. So I'll talk about the health thing first, then the stretching, because the health thing for me is a little. I'm not like crazy about it, although my wife might say otherwise. It's prepare.
Wives, they're always saying
You
things.
prepare food. Bring kombucha. Say like a black coffee, kombucha. Get a nice thermos type situation, and get a nice like a lunchbox.
Yeah.
Whatever you call it. I mean, just like you're going to work. You're like, I got my lunchbox. I got my,
Yeah.
And it's cost efficient. You save tons of money. Bring a salad, an apple, maybe a boiled egg. Who knows? You change it up a little bit. You get tired. Like I used to do the jerky thing, and then the boiled egg's really good because you're just kind of full. For me, the best is a salad and an apple. And I have like times, like I'll try to like save my apple till like a certain time in the show and like things like that. I bring the Altoids, I put the Altoids beside my mixer and my like little metronome. Like have the Altoids, me and the bass player share. We have cinnamon and peppermint and sometimes wintergreen all out. Ooh. So it's like, which one Shania Twain? I think I'll have a cinnamon.
Yeah, I love it. It's like a whole experience. It's not just set up in the drums. It's everything. Your own little office.
And we actually have
Barracuda. Oh, time for all three.
Yeah, for
like
real.
Juggling apples while he's playing.
But yeah, apple. At least one apple per show, or at least one apple per day, and then at least one kombucha. And I drink a lot of coffee, like black coffee or oat milk. It's good too.
They say an apple per show really makes you have to go.
Is it good? It's like, I might want to do one per 2 shows.
Yeah.
But you don't want to drop your apple into the floor, and then it's pretty nasty.
Yep.
And you gotta, So there's all sorts of.
There's some risk involved.
There's a lot of risk, but the food thing, I just say just like anything, like with the show, be as prepared as possible.
Yeah.
Bring a little food and. It just helps me feel better. That's really the reason I started doing it. It was like, I just fight like a cheeseburger or something, dude. I just want to go to sleep. Like, I don't want to play drums. Like, I just want to chill. I try to eat healthy and drink. And I also don't drink, I'm actually about to celebrate, believe it or not, 15 years of sobriety on Friday.
15
wow, man.
years. Wow, dude.
Yeah,
Congrats.
I started that my first year after moving to Nashville because I probably wouldn't be here today if I hadn't done that. So that's a good thing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So,
dude,
thank
incredible.
You. Yeah. So that's also a big part of this whole journey, getting clean and sober. But so anyway, going back to the stretches, this is a big one because I think it was like September maybe last year. I was like, dude, I think I'm going to have like a surgery. Like my hand was just killing me. And I always kind of pride myself in a really, really good technique. I never played too hard. I always played soft. People used to hire me because they were like, you're like the quietest drummer I know. You're not the best. You're definitely not the best drummer, but you could play quieter. Like I would
literally know you're here, bro.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
hired.
It's like, did you
drummer compliment?
Was that a compliment to me?
And it's really not, but like if you're like at a tiny little restaurant type venue, it's like you're like some Thai food restaurant, and like you have to play the drums. It's like you gotta be super quiet. And I learned how to play with brushes and everything. So it's like, and not just play the drums with brushes, but like,
it's harder to play quietly.
Which is different.
It is.
Yeah, like have that finesse and technique, like you said. Anybody can just bash away.
It's true.
And I worked so hard on that. And then I get down to Broadway and I'm not even going to say what the bass player leaned over and said to me in the microphone. But he was basically like, dude, you need to hit the drums. And I was like, oh. And so I started it's funny, I started swinging back like a little, like while I was playing super quiet. And now I'm like trying to build up a little stronger presence on stage because it's like the guitar players are playing too loud and everything's loud. And it's like, you can't be like, oh, I'm just going to be super dynamic and musical. You just got to be like laying it down. Like, here's the beat. And y'all follow this because this is spot on. Like, this is where it's at right here, And so you have to have a little more attitude when you're playing, like, the stuff we played on there.
Yes.
Yep.
So, I always thought I had a good technique, but then I guess I abandoned it to try to get a little more presence, like cutting sound. And that also had something to do with the tuning. But anyway, mainly it was just bad technique. And I overcompensated I guess some of it was one night or over a period of time, but the next thing I know, I'm like, dude, my left hand's killing me. And
Just your left and not, because are you left-handed or right-handed?
I'm left-handed.
Okay.
But I play right-handed.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm like, are you left-handed?
No, but I do play open.
You play open. Yeah. Yeah.
You've been doing that a lot recently, right?
Yeah. I've done it for years, but I've really used Broadway as a chance to like push that. I'm like, okay, now I'm playing a lot of simpler songs so I can really woodshed all of these open-handed, and it's been a boon to my playing for sure.
That's awesome, man. I wanted to ask you, there's a few players I know that play open, and I've kind of wondered, like, are they just like, have they always done it? Are they experimenting? Or they're just like, I'm just going to try it because I've played this song 1,000 times? Like,
Honestly,
I don't know.
I truly believe that once you get comfortable with it, it just makes more sense. Like I can continue to, first of all, I can continue to keep time on the hat with my left, and my right hand can go explore toms or whatever. But then also there's no interference during syncopation at all. There's no possible interference.
It makes perfect sense. Like, it makes so much sense that I can't even.
I'm going to try that more. Yeah.
You know what you do? This is the quickest thing ever. Just choose one song to learn, and to learn perfectly, and do that. And then once you have that, just learn a second
Does it
song.
help too that your left foot
That's
is...
true.
That's it.
Then you have
I
your
have
left hand and your
couple
left foot
songs that I do.
like vertically aligned.
Say again?
Like your left foot, like your left part of your body would be aligned.
Yes.
Kind of
I don't know
like
if that makes
the
any
New
difference.
Breed guy.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Chester or Chafee.
Chafee, yeah.
Yeah. He's had.
Wait, is
It's
that...
Chester.
It is Chester, yeah.
I think. I don't know.
I wanted to...
It's been a while.
Chafee is... what is that? Linear time playing. That's... Yeah.
The other Gary.
Yeah.
Who's a big influence? Gary?
Gary.
Yeah.
Novak? Well, yes, actually.
So, I agree with you, man. I'm like, but I hurt my hand. I was like, dude, what's going on? I was like, I had luckily so many gigs that I just couldn't get a period of rest. I'm just like, dude, and I just kind of like never let it really heal up, and then it was just getting to the point where it was like really hurting me. I'm like, dude, I don't know. Maybe I need to have like a surgery. And like I was just like kind of sometimes we tend to just go to those like the worst case scenario,
of course.
right?
Yep.
Well, long story longer, I get a number, and this guy named Randy Pendergrass, and he's like a massage therapist, and he comes over. Well, turns out Randy plays drums, not like but he plays. He's not playing on Broadway all week, but he's a drummer and he has been for a long time. So he had like a concept of like, plus he's like a guru of like how the body works, and he's a drummer. So it was like, so he started doing work on me, man, and he gave me some simple stretches. And I literally had a massage with him this morning. And it's totally changed a lot in my just day-to-day quality of life and my playing, which, kind of hand in hand as a musician. So yeah, but the stretches, the basics of it is just, I do these table stretches as I do this doorway stretch.
Oh,
But
yep.
see, you're open, so you're already a little more open. But see, Randy's like, you're doing this, you gotta think, we're lucky to be doing, we're like 30 to 40 hours maybe of playing. And as you get tired, I feel like my posture at least kind of gets a little worse.
Yep.
Yeah.
So by the end of like hour 7, I'm just like, and so I do the doorway stretch. And that one really I could feel it. It's like lighting up everything.
Mm.
And just make it a ritual, like coffee, whatever you like to listen to or whatever. And then
So is the stretching every day or just before gigs?
every day,
Yeah.
every
man.
morning,
That's amazing.
every morning, even when you're on vacation, if possible, even if you don't have a gig, just
Yeah.
to keep it. Because it's funny. I look at it sort of like some things you could do the one time, but it's like you can't be like, well, I brushed my teeth last week. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a daily discipline. So if you think of it like that, like it hurts. Like it needs it every day.
Yeah.
Like you could take 3 days off of no playing, and like all 3 days, I would just be like equally as sore as if I just played 10 hours. Like I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
So I do those, and that just kind of opens this up. And then most recently, he got me on the foam roller, dude.
Oh yeah.
Changed my mind. That like the IT band. I've got this softball. I have to lay on a softball in my hip socket, but it's totally changing. It's totally changing my my ability to relax
Yes.
while playing.
I use the lacrosse ball for that very thing.
Yeah.
That really digs in there.
Oh, dude.
You
so,
do the Theracane?
sign me up.
It's
I
like
don't know.
Theracane.
It's a little
Theracane.
it's a cane that you can like
Oh,
dig into these knots back here. Oh my lord.
Really?
Is it I've had a lot of back problems.
Oh.
And my buddy Josh Huckabee, who is legitimately one of the strongest human beings I've ever met in my life, he's like, you want to basically just massage those parts that are all crunchy. He's like, until like the goal is that those are just like soft and like and really they should feel relaxed and like they should like that all that musculature should be no rigidity. That's gonna mess you up. And when I haven't been as good about it lately. I need to get back on it. But that was it takes a couple of weeks, but if you're doing it consistently, you get to that point where like, oh yeah, it's like it feels totally different. That'll actually last. You could do it for 2 weeks straight, and it'll probably last you like 2 months.
And wow. And I think there are things like, it's just
That's so easily overlooked, right? Like how many drummers
Yeah.
do you guys see day in and day out that, they show up and they play? I'm sure they play great, but like, are they stretching? Are they actually being healthy with it?
Yeah, drink a couple beers and like just go home, and to go to sleep. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, I think at a point you can do that, but I'm trying to, like I say, I'm like, dude, I'm trying to be like, 70 years old and
Right.
playing because I want to play.
Yeah.
Not because like I have to, but you know what I mean? Like you want to be able to
Yeah. Still enjoy the craft,
play
even if you're
drum,
older.
yeah,
Of
right?
course.
And so,
I don't want this to have an expiration date because of my physical body.
Yeah, that'd be the
Like
worst.
I would like to stop drumming when I die, and not
Yeah.
before.
yeah, and it's just like you don't when it comes back to the disciplines of just it's really hard. Like even this morning I had to just be like, okay, because I don't I didn't have a gig. Today's my off day. I didn't have a gig, right? It's like you gotta stretch, and I had a massage coming at 10. So I was like, but if I get really loose and really get on the foam roller and work out the hip and really stretch and get in a really relaxed state, my massage is going to be even that much more elevated. You know what I mean? So anyway, it's always a struggle, and but it's good because it goes into drumming, creating those disciplines in the practice room. And then going back to the drum rudiments, you have this simple, like I say simple, like is anything simple? I don't even know, but anyway, like the Fool in the Rain groove, right? Or the Purdy Shuffle, really is what it is. I just worked on that at a pretty slow tempo, and just like what you're talking about the Theracane, you're just trying to get it to relax. It shouldn't feel. I'm like, I want the Purdy Shuffle to feel as simple as the most basic drum beat I can possibly play.
Yeah.
And that also ties back into that Headroom.
Yeah.
You really need, and it's just one of those things, like I might get it, and then it comes up all of a sudden, and it's just like, ooh, well, if I had to go record that, you know, if it was a recording session, you know, and let's just like pretend, say all your favorite drummers, both Vinnie's and everybody else, was gonna go in and like listen in the tracking room to your drums soloed. You know, how would you play?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of concept, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like taking that approach to every gig, every song, every beat, everything.
Yeah,
Really, that's kind of the level I'm trying to hold myself to when I play downtown or anywhere. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if Phil Rudd was gonna listen to me play this song soloed, we're gonna record it. He's gonna listen to my beat.
Yep.
What would he think? Or like Bernard Purdy or whoever.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I've never really heard it put it that way.
Yeah, that's holding yourself kind of to a high level.
Yeah.
So even if it's like, let's go, girls.
Honestly, that's one of my favorite grooves that we play the whole night, every time.
Because it grooves.
Yes.
It's shuffle. I mean, it's a heavy. You can make it, but you can make anything groove. You can make a train. I mean, taking that feeling of, I don't know why all of a sudden I'm talking about this, but I'm just getting excited. Sorry. Taking that feeling of your favorite groove, whether it's like basically your favorite beat, whatever it is, and making. This is the real challenge. It's easy to play your favorite song, especially when you can play it and you're like, I can really play this and I know it's good. It's fun, dude. It's easy. It's awesome, right?
Yeah.
But how do you make the songs that don't make you feel that way, make them feel that way?
Yeah.
That's the challenge.
Exactly.
And especially I know this isn't like a Broadway drummer thing, but we, you know, in that
it comes
context,
up every time. Yeah.
in the particular context of but it could, like when I was playing a lot of jazz, like, you know, it might be like a stand. It's funny, every style seems to have their standards. Everyone's like, oh, here we go. Fly Me to the Moon or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought this song's awesome. I like it, right?
Yep.
You know, you have like Sweet Home Alabama. But then I'm like, dude, I'm like, I play Sweet Home Alabama, dude. I'm trying to make that groove so hard.
Yeah.
Or like a train beat. Just make it just swampy and groove.
Yeah, and make it not rudimental, even though you're playing literally just, it's a very drum corps kind of thing, right?
Yeah, but if you do that, it
I mean, on paper, but it shouldn't, feel that way.
Yes. And, oh God, no. Because like everyone's gonna want it to stop. You're like, oh.
That was my challenge. Like first coming here,
like that's cool to be able to do that, but anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, but take your favorite groove and put it into like. I'll for me, one of the personal challenges is something like Wagon Wheel. Might be pretty hard.
Nate's favorite song.
It's a challenge to play that with conviction and groove. And I've realized recently that a big part of it is because chances are maybe one or more of the members of the band are just like not really, they're just like whatever, They're not really,
Yes, understand.
And that makes it understandable,
Yeah.
but then that makes it harder. Then it makes you really work even harder than you thought you had to work to make that song feel good. And some people are gonna hear that and be like, "Well, whatever, dude, it doesn't matter." But I'm like, "Well, to me, it does." You know what I mean? Like, I because I hold myself to that standard, and that's just, and I know the drummer who played on that track, and if you really listen, I mean, there's a reason it was as one of my friends said, he's like, it was a hit for a reason.
Yeah.
And
that's why it's sometimes hard to argue against like Nickelback, no matter how many people want to say whatever they want to say about Nickelback, including things that I have said, but they've had a bajillion hits, and there's a reason why they've had such a spanning career of hits.
Yeah.
Those songs worked.
And isn't it funny that there are certain bands and artists that for whatever reason they just at some point become easy to, it's like a joke or to make fun of, and then it just seems to.
Yeah.
But it can only happen with something that is good to a level. It is great in a way,
Right.
but it's also so easy.
The higher up you go, the bigger the fall, kind of thing.
Well, you just
It's easy to attack them.
bigger target.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm like, well, yeah, I know this is gonna, you may or may not believe this, but I really do try. I at least try to make, like, every song we play, I just try so hard. I mean, there's a challenge if it's like the end of the day and you're just mentally tired or something, or you're thinking about something. I wander. Don't get me wrong, but I really try. Like, if it's like a Nickelback song, dude, I'm just like, I just wanna be big rock. I'm like, yes, oh, wow,
15 cars.
yeah. I'm like, and you know, like, one thing I like to do is watch music, because I grew up in like the 90s or whatever.
MTV.
80s. I love music videos, dude. So I still I like to visualize the video as I play.
Oh wow, I haven't heard that before.
Really?
That's cool.
I don't know. I'm just.
I mean, I'm a visual person too. I haven't thought about that. Like,
Dude, it's so funny, especially on those kinds of songs.
so you mean the actual official band's music video, or just like a live performance video, or both?
Depends on how deep you've gone in, but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you've seen the video, like, so when I practice, my approach to, not that you're asking, but my approach to Broadway
Well, we were going to.
is I learn the part. I learn the part
From the records.
as best as I can, and then I do know for a fact that I slowly, unconsciously morph and change it. And then sometimes I'll go back and listen and like, oh, well, that's how that goes, you know. But that's my approach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's not right or wrong. It's just my approach.
I do the same thing, for the most part.
Learn the part, and if it's iconic, and I think about who's the drummer, and was it a band or a session
Yeah.
player, and who was the drummer, what was the era, what's the impact it had, and the more impact, the more iconic, or the more I just think that the part's awesome, even if it's like a drummer that no one even knows or cares about. If it's an awesome part, I try to learn it. Or if it's just a fill that's just like, that's perfect.
Yes.
I mimic that fill, and I do it every time. And then it eventually creeps just into your playing. And then you're in a session or another song, and it kind of comes out. But yeah, I learned the part. Like, that's my thing.
I think that's good to do, even if you're not going to play the part. You should, if you want to alter it, I think you should learn it first.
Yep.
Amen.
You're not really altering it if you haven't learned it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a respect thing, I think, too. Yeah, I like what you said. Like, you try to see who the drummer is and the impact they had, see where they're coming from, and, you know, why did they play it that way? And, like, it's recorded for a reason. It was released like that way for a reason. So there's got to be some truth to that.
Man. I was like always like, I'm gonna do my own thing, bro. And then, like, when I went to school, I got like really kind of got my ass kicked a little bit. It was like, all right, well, who's the drummer? What studio? What year? Who was playing bass? Who produced it? What'd they have for breakfast? You know what I'm saying? And I was like, I don't know or care, dude.
Yeah.
But I was in this like really rigid, like, well, you better know, or you're like we'll teach some, like, we'll have somebody else. Like, we don't really need you, kind of thing. I was like, oh, cool. And I
It's like a humbling
resented
moment.
it.
Yeah.
I resented it at first, and then I realized, like, wow, they're just making me go deeper. It's like, well, if you want to be a professional, you know, musician, like the dude who he pushed me so hard. He's like, when you get out of here, you are expected to be an authority, is what he said. He's like you're an authority in like jazz drumming. I was like, oh. It's like, you need to know this stuff, you know what I mean? And I've taken that into, like, who played on that Toby Keith song, or like whatever, you know, all the songs that we play. But going back to the music, the video, like, it makes it's just like another layer. It's just another layer of depth. But if you learn, like, who's the drummer, who's the bass player, who's the keyboard, who played guitars. I mean, there's different eras. And if it was recorded in Nashville or LA or whatever. And then you go in, and COVID for me was like a beautiful thing because I got to go in so deep on this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you can like learn about every drummer that played on all these songs and then like learn their whole like life story.
It's true.
And then you're thinking about all that, and I'm like, okay, I've watched the music video. So when I practice, so going back to the part, I learned the part, but I practice I pull up, I have like YouTube with no ads just so I can do this.
Yep.
So I watch the music video and learn the part. So I memorize, I get the visual. It helps me learn, and it's more fun. And then I'm thinking about the people who play it on. I'm thinking about the video. Yeah, it just makes it like less like BS.
Yeah.
Like I'll just do whatever I feel like. I learned this cool lick. I'm just gonna play that. You know, that happens too, but you know, it just, like I said, depends on the part, dude. Over COVID, I learned it's not where it should be now, but I sat down and learned Stairway to Heaven. Like I transcribed it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which was a skill I learned in school. And I was like, wow. The crazy thing is like, there's some, like, for example, the opening drum fill, like, I don't know if there's ever been a more simple, dumb drum fill ever. But when Bonham finally comes in, he just goes like, da, doom, doom, doom.
Yeah.
It's just like 4 notes.
Yep.
Simple. It's like, but it's so big, right? But no one, you have to, like, no one plays that. When you finally get to come in, you want to do something way more awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Again,
Anything, but it's
takes
better than
discipline
that.
to
Yeah.
back that discipline to play something simpler and probably more effective.
Yeah, and it's like, do you have to play that every time? Well, no. But like, to what your point, but knowing that is the part.
Yep.
Right.
And then maybe it eventually morphs, or maybe you don't. I don't know. Like whatever. There's no right or wrong, but it's just fun to know the part.
It is.
And think about like why. And then you watch, like, say you listen to an interview with Jimmy Page, and you're like, oh well, I figured out that John Bonham is more effective when he comes in later on in the song. That's like so he produced it. He's like, the way he plays, if he comes in after the song has started, everybody, it's just like, whoa.
Yeah,
and
everyone's wowed by that power.
Yeah.
And he utilized that like a lot. And if you think about it, it's like,
There's an element of suspense.
He totally
too.
did. No, that makes so much sense. Okay.
There's just so many songs where Bonham
He got us.
So yeah, anyway, little things like that.
I love that, though. I love that
cool
mindset. It's almost like as you're firing on the drums, like you have all this ammunition behind you. You're not just coming up and playing. Like anybody could do that, but you're coming in with so much context.
Yeah, and then at the exact same time, that can also inhibit you. Because you're like, oh, I have to play the thing. You know, it's like, well,
The balance, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's really just going back to the just being like water. Try to do what's best for the situation. You know, like I think about the instrumentation. Like, is there like loops and percussion and like 15 guitar tracks and all this other stuff on the recording that isn't happening in my like 3-piece band at midnight? It's like, well, okay, I know the part, but that ain't gonna work. Like, I have to fill in some space.
Yes.
So, yeah. Anyway.
Is there anything you want to comment on as far as one of the notes you left was that you'd like to talk about what not to do?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or advice for, because one of our goals, I think, for this show is to, you know, attract young drummers and people moving to Nashville and just kind of obviously inspire people. But yeah, advice for what not to do, whether it's Broadway or just from your experience.
I mean, it's sort of quasi a joke, but it's not. You know what I mean? I think maybe not compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to yourself yesterday. Just try to play today. This show, just do this gig better than like yesterday's gig, right? That's one of them. It goes into the taking care of yourself thing, but don't just think you're just gonna be able to just do like play and live and put in your body anything you want at all times and just be okay.
Right. I mean, you can get away, like, the young drummers can get away with that. I'm sure we have all had those moments where, like, maybe you couldn't stretch or you didn't have that meal beforehand. Like, you could walk away from it fine, but longevity, it's not ideal.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really nothing new. There's nothing new there. It's just stuff, I guess it's things that everyone, I think, knows. Just, I don't know, really just, I think I say that because I feel like it took me such a long, in my mind, like a long time to kind of get to the point. I feel like I searched outwards so much before I kind of came to realize what my role in music is. And for me, it's just more of like, play the music, play the groove, give the people what they want, listen to the records, learn, find some great players, and just absorb what they did and just do your own version of that. And studying, there's studying books and studying like drummer stuff is cool, but at a certain point I think it has a maybe diminishing returns, you know. I'm not gonna say it's not like effective. It's just like at some point it's like, okay, you're leaning a little. I found myself, I was leaning a little too heavy on the technical side of things and not enough into the music.
I found myself in that same feeling as well this past few years. Just like, cause like, and we're told this, you know, get the drum books, and especially with social media, like it's so easy to just look at all these amazing drummers from all over the world.
Dude, yeah.
And like they have the transcriptions sometimes, and you want to just go into drumming so hard because we love it. But it's like that's not always the gig or what we should be doing for the music.
Yeah,
I think everything's a balancing act, you know.
Yeah, and the other thing would just be like, there's other stuff outside of drumming, you know, like go on a bike ride. Like big part of my daily routine is walking. So like, you know, and you know, spend time with people that you love and care about, and do things outside. That's kind of my thing, you know. Like I spent so many hours in a practice room, but I wouldn't go like hang out with somebody. Yeah. And now I'm just like, so that's like one of the things to not do. It's like, yes, you need to, but then you have people like all they do is hang out. Well, like, okay, you're not going to get better, but what you said, the balance. Yeah. Just also don't forget, I guess the main thing is don't work so hard on being a perfect musician. Work on yourself as whatever that means to you, like whether it's that spiritual aspect or the physical aspect or all the above, but work on yourself and not just the drums. I guess maybe that's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. You stare at me like an open book.
I did want to ask you, because, you know, most of our guests have been here like relatively they're new to Nashville, you know, like 5 years or so.
Yeah, man.
So as someone that's been here, what, 20 plus years?
50. 15.
Now I know to not take you seriously.
15.
So like you've obviously seen a lot of change. Talk about kind of two questions in one. Talk about like just what that's been like, and also like the jazz scene in Nashville specifically.
Can I get my kombucha for this?
Yeah, get the kombucha. Okay. Beautiful.
Cool. I mean, when I moved here, like, you know, Broadway was number one. I was such a different level player. And hopefully in 15 years from now, I say the same thing about this, right? But I came from a town where I was playing all the time, and then I come here and I was like, wow, okay, this is not, I'm not like there. So when I moved to town, like you could park on Broadway, you could just park and meter. You could, after 5:30, you could just park there. You could take your drum, you go right into your gig, and you get your $40 and you go home or whatever. You know, it's like, it's very different.
Yes. All of those things you just
said, right?
Yes.
Right. And so, but at the same time, I didn't have any steady work down there at all. I had a couple random one-off things, but no steady work. And then I was also not in the mindset. I wouldn't have been able to really play a gig like I'm playing now. for multiple reasons. But I didn't really like. I'm from Louisiana. I grew up playing like gospel and blues, and like like old. Like I grew up in a Pentecostal church, so it was just like a very specific style of gospel. Not like I'm recently discovering like the CCM world, and it's very different than like the church I grew up in, right? So I grew up in that thing. I didn't really play a lot of jazz, but I was like, I like jazz. Like I like it, but it doesn't mean I didn't get it at all. I mean, I felt it, you know what I mean? And then, so I went to school and started studying it, and there are some, amazing jazz musicians in Nashville. But it's obviously not like, there's not like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them like it would be like in New York City.
Yeah. I know a few.
But there are.
And like I've only seen a few clubs. I know there's more venues that I just haven't been to, but.
Yeah, there wasn't. The only place she goes is this place called F. Scott's. It was in Green Hill. I think it's closed. It was a little piano bar you could play. I guess I should say this, but so my instructor, Derek Phillips, I don't know if you know Derek, insane, great player, jazz player, everything. I mean, everything. I think he's out with playing like Leanne Rimes and Brett Eldridge, and like he had the Hank Jr. gig for a while. But he's also played with like Greg Osby and all sorts of really heavy jazz jazz artists. But I would go watch him play, and like sometimes like Marcus Finney would be playing, guys like that. And then, Jerry Navarro and Jonathan Wires and all these great players. Don Alico, sax tenor, he plays everything, mostly tenor. You have all these great players, and so a lot of them teach at MTSU. So I went to MTSU and studied, but then went through, ensembles and big bands. And so for me, jazz scene, I don't really know. I think the players that are here are excellent. And I think now there are players moving, like jazz players moving here, which is kind of a new thing, I think. Mm-hmm. So Rudy's opening was huge, has been huge. I was playing with a band called Cosmic Collective. We played there a few times, and then a few other things I've done there, but I haven't played there in a while.
Have you played at 1230 Club? Is that considered like a spot for jazz or not? I generally don't know all the other spots. But...
I do play. I do have a trio.
Mm-hmm. Jed Smith trio.
Yeah. Joel Gage on guitar, Patrick Atwater. It's really not we couldn't figure out a better name for it. I booked it, so it was like my trio, but it's not my trio.
The drummer is always the one in charge, right? Booking. And
I was like,
marketing.
Okay, whatever. But Joel sings and plays, but we're like, it's like improvised music. I wouldn't say jazz. You know what I mean? Like that. And the more you get into it, the more you realize, like, what does that even mean anymore? Yeah. So that term in and of itself is kind of like, I don't know if that's really even the best way to. I know a guy, a great bassist and musician and composer, Greg Bryant, and he's like, I don't even like to use the word jazz. He's like, I don't even want to call it that.
Yeah.
It's just improvised music. In the moment. So we play at Assembly Food Hall some, hoping to get back in there a little bit more. But yeah, I mean.
So would you say there's more opportunities? Oh yeah,
right. Yeah, a lot more opportunities, and you have jazz players doing other things.
Someone that comes to mind, Nate Felty.
Yeah,
he's a killer jazz player, but he's also doing everything else.
Yeah, man, killer.
Yeah, we gotta talk to him.
Yeah, we do.
There's so many killer players. Like with Derek, my teacher, he was like, I studied jazz, but I wasn't trying to be a jazz drummer.
Yeah.
Like, where it's like, that's all you do. And I think that's something to think about. Like a lot of classical musicians have the same thing going, except probably even more intense, because at least jazz is like commercial, which it's not, but sort of in the academic world. Mm-hmm. It's like, commercial. Jazz is in a commercial ensemble, sort of like a Belmont it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a weird. Actually, right before I came, I've been asked to be on this like music advisory board for Nashville State Community College.
Yep.
And you know, it's like very academic, and there's people from Belmont on there, and then there's also people that are just like musicians, you know, like me. And so commercial music, like jazz is like considered commercial music, but I'm just like, but it's not.
Right.
But then in some schools, it's very much, it's like an art music. Just kind of depends on how you want to look at it. But classical musicians, it's like, are you going to get up and, if you're like, say you're a classical, like double bassist, I guess is what you call it. You got to, like, you think these guys get up and practice their major scales like every single day with the bow. And they're working this, just the level. It's like you have to practice so intensely daily. And for me, I think to be a serious jazz player, not to just like play jazz a little bit, but to be like a legit, you are a jazz player.
Authority, to use that word again.
Yeah,
yep.
you gotta be, dude, that's all you need. You need to listen to it. You almost need to listen to it more than you practice it. Number one, so you get the language. So you're not doing the things, like I was saying earlier, where I'm like playing on, I think I'm being cool, playing over the tenor solo. And he's like, dude, what are you doing? You need to listen to jazz constantly, and you need to be practicing it constantly and refining. And to me, you know, jazz in that sense is like an art music, so to speak, more of like a classical music, because of the level of intensity of just practice. Like you have to live it. And so I used it as a I love jazz. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I'm also not like a jazz drummer where like that's what I do. You know, I used it to study, and I still work on certain elements of it.
Yeah.
And it informs everything I do, like my touch, but I would not call myself a like jazz musician. Like that's just like what you do. And I'm just a musician, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But there's a lot of great players in this town, dude. I mean, that might be the understatement, but specifically the jazz.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to come see you guys play. You have any upcoming gigs with the trio?
I'll get back to you on that.
Talk offline
Tommy,
about
if you
that.
can hear me, text me back, bro.
Yeah.
Dang. Nah, I don't know. We'll see.
This has been super awesome to have
I'm
you.
gonna go home and stretch and hit the Terracane.
Yeah,
and the
100%.
foam roller.
Yes.
I'm grateful that y'all have me, had me on, because I think it was good to talk, get some of those things in my head out.
Yeah.
I know I just rambled
Just
a
talk with
little bit.
fellow drummers, and
It's
it's great to
cool.
learn your background, and I thought we had some really interesting deep dives there. For sure.
Yeah, man. Next Wednesday, same place, same time. Or was it? Is this Thursday?
Today's Wednesday.
Thank God it's not Thursday. I would be in trouble.
You'd be in trouble. You'd be late for something.
Yes,
You'd be off the gig.
I would be very fired right now. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nashville Drummers Podcast. If you liked it, please consider leaving us a review on the Apple Podcast app.
Also, definitely check us out on Instagram. You can follow us at Nashville Drummers Podcast.
If you're interested in being on the podcast, go ahead and send a message to either Dan or myself, or you can send it directly to the Nashville Drummers page on Instagram, and we will talk to you and review your case, and we'll judge you harshly. Just kidding.